It's nerve-wracking. It's a little nerve-wracking.
Nah. Says we're live.
It looks like we are live.
Intro.
Huh?
You should do a fancy intro.
Fanciness. I don't even know what to do. Shake it off. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another Cheddar Live episode with Grant Dunn and myself, Taylor Dunn. We're happy that you all can join us today. I hope you're having a successful Wednesday, a productive Wednesday. Question I have for you guys is, are you ready for Q4? Are you guys getting into that mix and that rhythm? Because we are getting closer. We're actually in it. In my opinion, we're in it right now. Grant, what do you think?
We're in it, my friend, my brother from the same mother. We're in it. It's Q4, right? You should be, sourcing, and I'm sure all of you are, because you're prepared. You're ready to rock. You've been like sourcing for peak selling season for like at least the last month, I would imagine, because you're a veteran seller. You've been, paying attention. But for those of you that aren't, those of you that are just doing the day-to-day and nothing kind of extra or special, it's time to wake up, right? It's Q4. We're here. We're in it. Technically, it's not Q4. Okay, by technicality, it's not.
Yeah.
But for Amazon sellers, I mean, depending on who you're talking to, Q4 starts in I don't know, what, May? They're probably, some of the ones, there are sellers, I'm sure they're preparing for Q4 well into, like the spring months and stuff. So, see, I've been doing that little stuttering lately. It's too much coffee. I'm on a whole second cup now. It's Q4, guys, and we've been doing some preparation. Cheddar Black is now it is open. We are flowing. Black chat is popping off, right? There's questions, there's discussion. We got something cool released. What did we do yesterday, Taylor? We did something cool. You did something cool.
So we launched our Discord channel for Cheddar Black this year. New platform, new look who this. And you know what? I will say I'm already enjoying it. I like the format. I like how it's structured. I like that there's channels that break down each, some of the most popular topics that people have when they're talking about Amazon, and it just seems like a nice place to organize all of your, all of that chat, right? Before we were using Facebook, and Facebook is great, but Facebook, and truthfully, I can't stand Facebook, but Facebook chat was great for all those years, but things would get lost in the conversation, right? When you have 100+ people in one room chatting, you might ask a question, and next thing you know, somebody, Sally who comes in, right below and asks, you might have, hey, how do I get around this? I just got an IP complaint, and how do I handle it for the first time? And it's like a good question that should be answered. And then someone comes in and says, look what I bought from Target.
Yeah.
And you're sitting there, you're like, well, I just asked my question. I didn't get an answer. Should I wait? Should I ask it again? Like, they're talking about Target now, and somebody's sharing a picture of their dog, and now they're talking about dogs. Okay, what about my IP question? Well, the nice thing is, with Discord, there's an IP channel, right? So you have questions about IP complaints and how to handle them. You can just throw them in the IP channel, and people know, like, hey, that's where we talk about IP complaints. Here's where we talk about Christmas items. Here's where we talk about ungating, that kind of stuff. So I'm excited for it. So if you're on Cheddar Black, check your inbox. I emailed you invites to this channel. If you're not on Cheddar Black, you're missing out. Make sure that you guys are signing up, ready to go. Grant, before we go any further, I just want to test to make sure that we're getting comments coming through. Can you guys shoot us a comment? If we're talking about Q4 before, so let us know if you're ready for Q4. Just put in the chat, ready for Q4. That way we know that, hey, chat's working. We're able to see it. I see that we have people watching us, but I'm not seeing any comments come through. So please do that. I think I'm curious why.
What's up, Alex?
What's up, Alex, Jennifer? So you guys are watching on StreamYard. So those of you who are on StreamYard, thank you for joining us directly here. We will be prioritizing StreamYard users and their questions. So if you do have a question, let it rip. And if you want to make sure that your questions get answered and are prioritized, make sure that you sign up to get the emails that we send out before we go live that have the StreamYard link. You can do that by going to oacheddar.com and putting in your email address. Let me just show you what that looks like right now. So if you come here to OA Cheddar, join the VIP list. You will not miss one of these live calls. You will be emailed a link to join us directly in the call. And we are, like I said, going to prioritize those StreamYard questions first before we jump over to some of the questions that we get on YouTube. So I hope that made sense. But thank you guys for letting us know. Hi from Georgia. I like that name, Coffee Break, from YouTube. Yeah. So, we're testing out new tech, guys. I like this. We can show the comments that we get. Ready for my first Q4. Awesome, Jennifer. We're excited for you. Alex G, ready for Q4. So before we even start talking about Q4, though, Grant, you actually just made a comment about another season that we are just coming to the end of or starting to wind down, and that's back to school.
Right.
So back to school, guys, if you didn't know, it is a season, right? Mm-hmm. Backpacks, pretty much anything clothing for kids.
Clothing, yeah. Well, not even for kids, man. Like college kids are, okay, kids, whatever. I guess we're kids until we're like 25, technically, in my opinion. But back to school, right? So it's all sizes, though, right? It's all sizes of clothing and shoes. And obviously, yeah, but I would say that's probably our number one back to school category, probably for sure, is going to be clothing and shoes. Not really selling toys for back to school, unless you're like into pencils and markers and coloring books.
Office supplies, right? Like you might, people can target it on those. It's funny how we look at our seasons and you think winter, fall, spring, summer, but as an Amazon seller, you're like, okay, back to school, summer vacation, right? Camping, right? That's a season, right? What sports are going in? Like I used to love buying cleats. I used to go to Marshall's and clean house on cleats. Football, baseball, didn't matter. Because they would, you get them for $20, you easily sell them for $40 to $60 for a pair of Nike cleats. And there was definitely a season, early spring, you start to get more of the baseball stuff. Come around, this time of the year, it's more football related items, volleyball. Think about like your high school sports and when did they play?
True. Nice thing about it too is like any season, you got moms and dads, people, Americans on Amazon, on the internet, shopping for their kids. And they're buying all kinds of things, right? They're not like, how often do you go to buy something on Amazon? You're like, I better add this to my cart. And last week I told myself I needed one of those. And so they're buying all kinds of good things. But yeah, backpacks are obviously, I've heard people talking about backpacks. Nike backpacks did really well. We don't necessarily we don't drill in. Like we saw great sales. We added more volume to our store. So we had really good, I think we hit right in the 175, 176, 77,000 30-day run at the peak of, that back to school season. We're kind of seeing like it taper off, which is always kind of a bummer. It's kind of like, it's back to school, like blues. They say you got the Q4 blues in February. Some people will call it what do they call it? Returnuary. Right? Is that?
Yes, I've heard that.
Or is that January? I think January is Returnuary, even though January is really good sales. But anyway, you get the Q4 blues back, and when you get into like February, March, things really die down. And I feel like that happens every time for me. Like it's always pop in July, and August is always a lot of fun, and then you get into September and things really kind of die down, and you're just sort of riding it out until you get into the Q4 season again.
Right.
Because I would say, so I'll just show you guys, we're super transparent around here. Like we don't just talk about selling on Amazon and behind the scenes only sell like tiny little figures, but we actually try to, lead by example here. I need a new phone case, so don't judge my disgusting phone case. But that's where we're at, right? You can just see the taper off, right? Like we didn't necessarily, we're not necessarily buying less stuff. Now I do think that, and I feel like this happens a lot. Like you come out of a peak season of selling and there's like weeks of just sort of a low, people are kind of out of budget. They've spent through their capital, their money for back to school. And so they're a little financially exhausted. And then I feel like as we get into late September and coming back into early October, like things turn into a little bit more normal, right? Like just your
Right.
average, selling uh, velocity on Amazon. And then it's not really until, I mean, I'd say like November. I mean, late October, November, and then obviously leading into November, things really pick up as you get closer to Black Friday.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Yep.
thinking out loud.
No, definitely. And we're ramping things up for Q4. I mean, like you were saying, our numbers are starting to taper off a little bit, but we're still buying the same amount of stuff. Actually, our skewed numbers are starting to rise,
Mhm.
which is good. It's and we're also looking at items and saying, okay, hey, we're about to walk into the busiest selling season of the year. Let's not be in such a hurry to liquidate, some of this inventory or worry about pushing out some of these SKUs. We know that we're going to be seeing, the best opportunity for us to sell this for a profitable amount coming right around the corner.
Yeah.
So we're excited. I've been going through some I don't know what to call them. I like to say they're like forecasting leads, I think is how I've always referred to it. But looking at items and leads and I'm saying I'm seeing the writing on the wall. I'm seeing the demand that's starting to happen. I'm starting to see that stores like Amazon, Walmart, Target can't keep certain items in stock, and usually are going to be the best selling items of the season and stuff that you want to be watching. And so I've been actually having a great time with that. I'm training our team to help kind of identify some of those items, but I'm also identifying items myself. We're sharing it again. Black Discord, it's going to be the place where we're going to be dropping those things because it makes the most sense. We have a Bolo feed that we're going to be adding into, and we're just excited for all that. Excited for
Yeah.
everyone on Cheddar Black.
And that's just like all, we're doing hangouts too. I did one last week, first time. We just had a small group of people. It was sort of an impromptu jump out and do that. But and I need to schedule another one probably for tomorrow, or I may wait until next week just because we have the short week this week.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna try to just hang out with the group and actually like face to face, like actually have a conversation, not these like talking head things all the time. But actually get in the
Right.
trenches and answer questions and stuff and try to build relationships because I think that's really, we're kind of starved for that. I think being that we're working from a computer screen a lot and stuff. And
Yeah.
but we it's not just Black Chat that's moving, right? We it's now the 6th of September. Christmas chunk started on the 1st. Do you know about how have we been doing delivering to that? It's only been not even 6 days, but um, I
No,
think we're
we
shooting for about 20.
we're shooting for a minimum of 20 right now. We expect to see a lot more closer to the Q4 season, but it's nice. I mean, we've been able to fill up 20, each day so far on
Cool.
Christmas chunks, which is great because, like we were just talking about, this is normally like, what is September? September is like kind of like this middle point that's kind of uncomfortable, right? People are getting back into their normal routines, their kids are going back to school, and it isn't until, like you were saying, end of October, beginning of November, where people start shifting their mindset to, oh crap, I got a bunch of kiddos that we got to buy gifts for, or
Right.
my uncle Paul, I drew in on this year's gift raffle, so I have to find him a what am I going to get him, that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
So no, it's an exciting time, but like, yeah, you just came out with, you got your first video that is getting edited right now for Cheddar Black. You're going over account performance and how we do things in our FBA business and how we kind of judge, are we operating in a good level right now, or do we need to make some changes? And then you were just telling me that you just finished shooting your second video, which talks about sourcing from order history and going deep into, how you're able to pull out inventory that you've already previously sold and then sell it again, and starting to
Mhm.
build yourself up a list of items that you can replenish when sales are good and things like that. So that's gonna be exciting. I'm excited to look over those. It did remind me though, we also want to do a video on merchant fulfill. So we'll probably
Which
be
we do
diving into
have.
that next.
Yeah, we have like, didn't you do like a little mini series on merchant fulfilling last year or the year
I
before that? So that's inside of the Cheddar Black Facebook group for people to review. So if you guys are in Cheddar Black, like, and you're looking for some merchant fulfill education, like down and dirty, here it is.
Mhm.
It's in there. But yeah, we will plan to actually, you and I need to plan a time to sit down and just go through the whole thing. So one of the things that we're doing different this year, guys, is like, So we're still meeting with the group, but in the past we've always offered some like trainings. And Taylor, you can pull up the Cheddar Black website real quick if you want, just so people know where to go if they're interested. But we've done live trainings, but then it like kind of forces me to like have to try to take the actual process and put it into like a slideshow, because I can't just go jumping into my Seller Central account like on a live call. It doesn't work like that. And so there's a lot of things that we're trying to kind of show. Like I'm trying to show personally, like this is like the workflow. This is kind of how I'm actually spending time doing certain things in the business. And Taylor will be showing some of the same stuff just in like Seller Central, because you can hear, like, for example, I watched a video the other day about this guy, and he was like crushing out like how to, pack shoes really efficiently in priority mailboxes with USPS for eBay. And I'm like, at the end of the day, this is good content for someone who has shipped plenty of stuff through eBay. Like they're very comfortable doing that type of stuff, but there's no like walkthrough of like, let's go into the account, let's actually do all of the steps. And I'm sure that maybe exists somewhere on the internet, but sometimes it's like that over the shoulder, like come sit next to me in my office if you could, right? Like physically be here. And then I'm going to show you what I do in my business. Because I feel like it's really easy to complicate this thing, and it's just not that complicated. It's you and I feel like we prove it year after year after year. Like this
Yep.
business is very simple. Yes, there's complicated aspects of it, and sure, doing it for 10 years like makes it easier than doing it, your first year. Like there's always going to be a learning curve and stuff like that. But once you get kind of through, like you understand the fundamentals of this business, it's just rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. And it's easy to get distracted with all of the different strategies and methodologies and everything that somebody else is doing in their business. Like it even happens to me sometimes where, someone's like, oh, I buy used books. I set up Keepa alerts and I buy used books and resell them on Amazon, and I invest in Legos, and I made $150,000 last year, or this in the last 12 months. And I'm like, that's awesome. I want to do that. And then I remember, well, no, I already have my own thing I'm doing, and I need to keep doing that,
Right.
And so, it's easy to get kind of distracted with all of the different things. And you got to pick a path, right? But you got to drill into that path. And I just feel like one thing, if there's anything that you and I have done, Taylor, and it's not because I think we're the smartest guy in the room. It really isn't. I think it's just out of necessity. We're busy. There's so much we're trying to accomplish that to sell on Amazon effectively, like we have to really simplify the hell out of it. And that's what I'm hoping that the video series, and I promised 4 videos. It's probably going to be more because as we record and think this through, it's like, there's plenty of cool things we could talk about and want to share with the group. And we want to really over deliver on the content if we can this year. And so, but it's really just trying to paint the picture of like, this is actually really simple. Like you could beat your head against the wall with your repricer if you want, or you could just do it the way I do it, which is really damn easy and simple. And I haven't changed it really. I mean, I tinker, but I really haven't done anything different in 10 years with a repricer or whatever it's been.
Well, you did do one thing different. You did do one thing different. You stop manually pricing your own inventory and going through each SKU and investigating and setting a min and a max and a strategy. Yes. Oh my goodness, you guys, you have no idea what it was like. It's
actually gotten more simple, right? It's gotten more, because we would invest several hours a week into just, actually, okay, inventory is received at Amazon. It's activated in the repricer. Let's go through, open up the listing. All right, let's set a min, let's set a max. And it's so stupid, because I knew for years that I could just, I knew that there was a way to integrate into, Inventory Lab into Informed. I knew it was there. Right. But I genuinely was like, I resisted like doing something different, because I just was like, I have this thing works, this way works. Right. And so why would I mess with it? And then finally it's like, but the only thing that gets me to do something new in business, Taylor, and I feel like a lot of us can probably relate, including you, is like when I just don't have enough damn time to do what I'm trying to do. Right. And there's like, I have to find ways to make things more efficient. I'm sort of kind of leaning into that a little more this year with actually hiring a personal assistant, not just a virtual assistant, but someone to kind of work with me and alongside of me and be an extension of myself. And to be honest, now that I have one, and she's amazing. She's super smart and super talented, far more talented than me,
Yeah.
honestly, in so many ways. It's crazy. Like, you just don't know. It's crazy. So there's some really smart people, right, that you
Yeah.
can work with that don't cost nearly as much as US staff. And anyway, she's super awesome. Well, but even now I've already like tapped her schedule pretty good, you
Yeah.
know, which is freeing me up and giving me peace. But I'm also like, I need more personal assistance. Like, I need more. 'Cause what more can I accomplish if I create more extensions of myself? Right,
Right.
that know what my day-to-day operations look like, and they're in the trenches. So she's like going into Seller Central and doing all the things I've dreamed of doing in Seller Central, in terms of just like super, because some stuff just takes time.
Right.
But I could never get to it, or I would do it for like a half a day and be like, I can't keep doing this. It doesn't have to be done. It should be done. It would be better if it was done, but I can't keep doing this. This is such a waste of my time. I have so much more important things to do. And so then it never would get done, until like 6 months later. And I'd have a small panic attack and be like, that thing isn't getting done. It needs to be done, but and so then I'd try to do it again for a day or two, and then eventually give up on it. But sort of rambling on. So yeah, guys, you can go to cheddarblack.com real quick. I just want to make this real clear. You can go to cheddarblack.com if you are interested in Q4 leads. Like, and I'm talking like, we're going to inundate you with leads over the next 12 months. Actually, just Christmas chunks is last year was well over 2,600 leads. That was from September 1st through the end of January. I expect, and no promises here, so don't hold my head against the wall or whatever. Like, don't. But I expect that we're gonna over deliver. I think we're gonna
Yeah.
out deliver Christmas chunks, because we've just made some optimizations, and we don't need to get into that today. But we've made some changes to our standards, and there are leads coming through our system that would normally be purged, that are good, that we want to buy, and our customers are happy buying, and it seems to be having a positive impact all around for ourselves, and for total production, and the amount of leads we can deliver that are high quality. The amount of opportunities that we have personally as sellers, sourcing exclusively from OA Cheddar, or at least like 99% exclusively. I have tried other lead lists, tends to not, like, we've talked about this, Taylor. I'm gonna just rant real quick.
All right. I'm gonna
This is
keep you
ABB, right?
accountable though. I'm gonna keep you accountable though and keep you to 2 minutes.
2 minutes,
Yes, 2 minutes.
3 minutes.
Okay,
No,
fine.
I'm
3
kidding.
minutes.
No, I'm kidding. So Cheddar Black, guys, I'll finish that thought, right? I do this a lot where I'm kind of a squirrel. So, or am I a squirrel, or do I see squirrels? How does that work?
I think you see squirrels. I think it's
Yeah,
the same thing though.
yeah. Is it?
Tomato, tomato.
Squirrels, they're really, yeah. They crawl across my window, not across the window, but they run across here, and they'll have little things in their mouth. They're building a little nest in the bushes up above. And anyways, what the hell? Here we go. Cheddar Black will crush out the leads. Black Friday, Cyber Monday. You don't have to even think about it. Just let us do the work for you. Let our team do the work for you. We got you covered. You can buy as much on those special holidays as you could, or shopping days, that you could possibly want. I don't expect for you to have any money left, right? I feel like if you are a Cheddar Black member, you are going to come into mid to late November, and you are going to be out of budget. That may be saying a lot, or that may not be saying a lot. I mean, depending on where you're at with your experience level, your confidence level, and how big your budget is. I can tell you that we're spending $100,000 a month on leads delivered exclusively from OA Cheddar. There will be more leads, and granted, that's with all of the lead lists that we have plus Cheddar Black. There's no way I have enough money to buy. We even now, even if I was just to buy off of 10 lists, right, we don't have enough money to totally maximize what we're delivering on. Yeah. Anyway, so cheddarblack.com, but the rant, right? Let's go back to, now I got 3 minutes. So now the clock is ticking, right? I got 3 minutes. We were talking about this though, Taylor, right? Because I was buying off of a lead list, or I was sourcing and just reviewing another lead list, because a couple of reasons. One, it's like, more leads, more opportunity, better buying decisions. That's just duh, right?
Right.
So let's go find some more leads. The second reason is OA Cheddar as a service we desire to be the number one lead list provider on the market. period. We don't want any other leadless provider to be able to even hold a candle to the quality and abundance that we deliver to our customers. And so part of that is with a little market research, right? And digging in, actually buying a couple lead lists and going, okay, what kind of stuff are they delivering to their customers? How does that compare, right, to OA Cheddar? And where can we improve? I can assure you, I don't have time, nor do I need to go in and look at another person's lead list and try to, get a special secret sauce that they might have. I'm literally just going flat comparison, compare this apple to this orange. Where can we improve? And I can honestly tell you, and again, it's easy to be biased and say this from this platform. Cheddar is the best leadless provider, period.
Yep.
We deliver the best quality leads. And granted, that's easy for us to say because we're buying and we've built a product that we want as 7-figure sellers. We've sold well over $10 million on Amazon. We know what we're looking for. And so OA Cheddar has been built around our perfect idea of what a lead list should do and be capable of. And we're even working towards improving it. And we got some cool things we're going to come out. That's later. But Taylor, so I was doing some of this and then I passed this off, or you actually said, hey, I can see that you're sort of behind on actually reviewing the competitor's lead list and maybe buying some things off of there, which I will say, if I'm paying for it and I see a good lead, I'm going to buy it. Right. It's like,
Right.
it's minuscule, but I said, sure. I handed it off to you. And I had already reported to you, Taylor. My opinion was we're better, right? We're kicking ass and taking names. These guys are, doing a different game. They're playing a different game and it's not at our level. That would, again, not afraid and not embarrassed to say that we're better. OA Cheddar is the best leadless provider on the internet, but you jumped in there too. And we were talking about, so eventually I passed it off and you were like, and you were doing the thing, you're going through each of their leads. You're actually uploading it into Cheddar software. I was just adding the ones that I liked, which is like 1 lead, maybe 2 leads per day per list. That was like out of like 10 or plus. I was like, these ones are all right. Sometimes I would not buy anything that I saw on the list because it just yuck.
Just didn't meet the standards. It wasn't stuff that we wanted to purchase from. And that's, when we train our team and things like that, we try to tell them like, hey, would you be willing to, when we're talking about certain sources, would you be willing to spend $500 from this source? And if not, you shouldn't buy it. But when I'm looking at leads as an Amazon seller, I look at it as like, what do I want to purchase? And if I go through our leads and I see like, okay, I don't really want to purchase that one, I'll move on to the next lead. But if I see that happening over and over again, that's when I'm going back to the team and saying, because we do our weekly meetings and saying, here are the stuff that I would never have purchased. And here's all the reasons why, so yes, this other lead list that we're going through, or that I've been going through, I will say my opinion is there's a lot of stuff that I wouldn't buy that I'm having to filter through and kind of sort through. And honestly, there's a part of me that kind of goes, I don't even want to bother uploading this because it doesn't feel like it's worth it. We're talking, and I would love to show like, hey, look at what they deliver compared to ours, but I don't think we'd ever do that. But just stuff where it's like, 24 days on Amazon, or here's a very long comment section to explain, try to justify to you why this lead is good. Like, well, hey, 6 months ago it was selling at this price, and 2 months ago it dropped down to this really low price, but hopefully it's going to go back up. Like here's
last week the price came back up, or
last week the price came back up for about 2 days and then went back down to where it's been for the last 6 since February. There's this, I'm really glad that we put in that feature to where a user can delete their own lead from their smart data right then and there. Because when I do and I find someone, I'm like, I would never buy this. Like this is not even on my radar. Hey, it's gone. It's no longer part of your database. Yeah. So
well, and that's something. I mean, we're buying pretty high volume. Like we have our own way of doing it, right? We're buying a lot of SKUs. We're buying shallow relatively, as much as we could drill down and buy more. And we're talking about how we can do that. And we have diversified a little bit and have multiple purchasing accounts, with different suppliers. We're kind of going in that direction. We're talking about using a catch-all email address to be able to get, coupon codes off of the welcome, the welcome coupon codes or first purchase coupon codes that you can then go and buy 20, 30, 40 times because you're going to get a different code every time, text messages, all this type of stuff. And so we're tinkering with that. But at the end of the day, we also have a ton of data, so it's relatively easy for us to just buy a vast array of items, and we're delivering. If we were to include replens, there and well, if we don't include replens, if we don't even include the replens, which is like 4 per list per day, we're delivering 100 plus leads a day, right, on top of the 40 plus replens. So about what would so let's just say there's on average 140 150 leads a day. Do you have kind of a rough idea? And we could go and calculate it and figure it out, and I think we do somewhere, but how many different ASINs would you suspect or estimate that we're buying per day personally?
I actually just got this question from a subscriber who used to be subscribed to all of our lists and then stepped away from OA in 2022 around June, and now is getting back into the game. And these guys were like heavy; they were spending 100 to 150,000 a month on inventory. So they asked me that question, and out of 100 leads, okay, I'm usually buying on average 60 to 70 of them. So I'd say 60 to 70% of the items that we're sharing on Cheddar, I'm purchasing. Now, that doesn't mean I'm going deep on every single one. I actually usually go pretty shallow. I'd say average around 4 or 5 units. And then the stuff that I do like, I'll go heavier in. We just recently had some sales from some outdoor stores with some really profitable stuff that I wasn't afraid to go 15, 20 deep on if I could get them. And I think we did, actually. I think we had good success with that sale. So I'm buying the vast majority of it. And that's the thing that I love about our list is we're giving you stuff that we would end up wanting to purchase ourselves. And we're not giving you a lot of fluff. The list that we're talking about that we're sampling or checking out for the last, I think, couple months now, it seems like there's a lot of, here's a bunch of leads. Here's a large quantity of leads. The quality isn't quite there. And really what that turns into is, well, let me filter through some of the stuff that is, are absolute no's. And maybe I might be able to pull 2 or 3 things off the list for that day. And Grant, that is my opinion. And I'm sure there's some people that would say the same thing about us, but that opinion does come with somebody who's been sourcing products, me personally, for 6 years now, and we've been selling on Amazon for 10. I have looked at, I think it's fair to say 100, I wouldn't be surprised if I'm getting close to like 200,000 Keepa charts in my life, in my 6 year, probably more. So anyway.
Yeah. Hundreds and hundreds of thousands of Keepas, man. Like, you general manage a lead list, service, and you're helping me run a 7-figure Amazon store for the last 5-6 years, whatever it's been. Like, you have probably looked at 10 times the amount of Keepas as most people. And I
close my eyes, I see a graph. Close my eyes and just see graphs.
Yeah. But you know what's fun about it is, like, we're still learning too. Like, we are still every day we are trying to optimize our service, to optimize our business. I mean, it's not like we're like, sweating bullets or anything, but we're still learning. Like, there's things about Keepa that we don't know. Like, I'm still pretty much clueless, or at least I understand the Keepa product finder, but I'm not well practiced.
Right.
I would have to go watch some videos just to set up some relatively effective searches, and I'm not even really embarrassed to say that. I got other things to focus on, but there's other people out there that are far better at certain aspects of this business. And I think that's what's so much fun about, like, Cheddar Black, is there's some really smart people. Yeah. Like, I'm noticing just from hanging out with 5 or 6, 7, I think there's like 7 of us total last week. And there's just some really talented, smart people doing cool things that have a totally different perspective on how this business can be done. And that's what's cool. There's like, there really is a lot of different ways. So like, let's kind of, maybe we can jump off that soapbox and move on to whatever else you think is important.
Well, one thing I want to add about that, for those of you who are hearing us talk about Cheddar Black and you're like, I really wanted to join it, but the price tag was a little bit more than I had and I could spend at that time, email us. We are coming out with a 3-pay option to fill in the last handful of seats that we have left over. So email us at team@oacheddar.com for that link. We will be adding it to the actual sales page at cheddarblack.com. But if you want to jump on that 3-pay option and pay, for Cheddar Black in 3 payments over the span of 3 months, email us at team@oacheddar.com, and we will send you that link to check out and get to not just for the leads, but also for the hangouts, for the Discord channel, for the training videos, right? If this is your first Q4, maybe this is your first Q4 that you're taking it serious because the first one came and by you weren't ready for it. This is a great group to be part of. And like Grant said, I think we're going to be over delivering heavy this year. That's our intention. That's kind of our mission right now. We're actually looking at ways to free up, our time so we can pour into that group, which does lead me to a question I'm going to ask everybody who's watching. We'll call it like the weekly question or whenever time we do these lives, but where can you outsource in your business? What areas can you outsource in your business? How can you free up your time to do what is going to make you money and not just do basic tasks that you could teach somebody to do? And one of those ways you can outsource is by passing off the lead gen to, maybe a business that's been in business since 2018 and has provided leads to, thousands of sellers at this point and have, helped people grow and reach new levels in their business. So just think about that question. Grant, let's just go ahead and just dive into the lead review. We have 2 leads to go over today. So I'm going to, I don't know if I like that layout because it'll block keep a graphs. So
hold on. I'm just going to interrupt you. This is too good. Leo wrote, I'm still buying replens from last year's chunks list. Right. That just goes to show you like the value of having a lead database. That's why we built Cheddar Soft, and you can, we have users in there with hundreds of thousands of data points in there, right? Or at least tens of thousands. I know we have at least 150,000 or something. But anyway, like the value of a lead isn't just the value of the lead that it's delivered that day. It's the value that can possibly pay you for months or even years later. So I wanted to point that out. And I want to point out one other thing. I think I don't know who this is actually, but when you break it down by lead, it's not expensive. I'm sorry, I totally have to interrupt you, Taylor, because these are comments
go for it.
Jump out. But when you break it down by lead, it's not expensive at all. So Cheddar Black, right? It's actually it's $2,000, right? We have the 3-pay option. That's if you don't get for the 6 months worth of an OA Cheddar lead list for the price of 4 months. Okay, that's the Cheddar Max option on cheddarblack.com. But $2,000, and we're expecting to deliver. I suspect, and I again don't, we're going to be close to this, but maybe even exceed it. I think in the range of 6,000 plus leads based on our previous performance, based on our current performance, and what we have planned and what's going forward, and getting invested into Cheddar Black this year. So you're looking at about 33 cents per lead. Okay. And I would hope that you can make all of that back and more in Q4. Now I will shut up and get out of your way and let you do the thing. But I just wanted to point that out. Here's the thing. There's this level of like exclusivity being the absolute key. You really got to think about what you're paying for leads. If you're paying $3, $4, $5, or even $10 a lead because you're doing, hiring people, right? Then you got to make sure you're getting all of that out of a lead. But when you're paying 33 cents per lead, right? And then it's a lot easier to make a return on that lead, right? So anyway, I'll just point that out.
Awesome.
Sorry about that.
Okay, so we have 2 leads to go over. We have a Huda Beauty and then a Nike shoe or sandal. So let me just go ahead and dive in. So looking at this lead, we have a $22.28 buy cost. The low FBA price is $42.99, which should result in a $10.35 net, 46% ROI. So let's go ahead and open these up. We're buying this from Cult Beauty. Okay, there is a promo code that gets you 15% off. Okay, and we're looking specifically at the cherry blossom variation. So first things first, when I'm opening up leads and I'm doing a review, we'll just check to make sure, certain things like, hey, do they have the variation in stock? If they don't have it in stock, move on to the next lead, right? It's more about speed and finding how, how can I either approve or reject this lead quickly so I can move on to the next item? People ask me, how are you, because I take about an hour to an hour and a half each day to source. And I go through anywhere from, on the low end, 85 leads, and on the high end, could be 120, right? And those are the ones that fit within the minimum net profit criteria that I put for our FBA business. So that isn't all the leads that OA Cheddar delivers, but and how I do that is I try to eliminate quickly, right? So check it out, cherry blossom. Okay, I see that in the title. Okay, image wise, there is a match here. This looks like the same image, just zoomed in. So we do have an image match, which is always nice. I come down, check profitability. That's the next thing that I would normally do too. So 22.28 is my cost. And I see the breakdown right there. Looks good to me. Always check to make sure brand is a match. Okay. If it is not a match, normally I won't buy it. Sometimes we like to put the little gray hat on. Okay. And sometimes we like to throw, depends on what the keep it history looks like. But normally if brand doesn't match up, I will just ignore that, or I will pass on that lead and then message my team and say, hey, don't do this again. Come do through here, checking bullet points, right? We're looking at the mini size on Amazon. That's important to check that out. I also believe it's up here in the title as well. Yes, it's the mini version. So I come back to the source. I do see here that we're looking at the 6 gram version. Okay. Sure, if I come through here and comb through this description, I might also find a confirmation on that. But I see 6 grams here, 6 grams also in the bullet points, which match up to the mini size. So I feel pretty confident we're looking at a match. Okay, everything's checking out there. Next, I'll come down to keep up. Now, looking at this lead, I right off the bat, I noticed that it's 54 days old. So this normally wouldn't make it to one of our Cheddar lists. And the reason why is because we don't want to share a bunch of leads that are just fresh on Amazon with you guys, because frankly, there's not enough history to feel confident about going deep on or sharing with a group of sellers where there's going to be a rise in competition. So even at 54 days, this normally wouldn't make it to our list. Every once in a while, we might make an exception. But I would probably have made an exception on a lead like this, but I needed examples for our live call. So this is a good lead to look at. So going into this is not a variation. Okay. This listing is only for this cherry blossom version. Okay. Now, there's a little bit of a risk there. Okay. That this item might get grouped together with, another listing that has all the different colors and shades in its variation. But I can't think like that, because if I assume that kind of stuff's going to happen, I'll never purchase inventory, because I can always assume the worst can happen with a listing. So because it's not a variation, I can look at the sales rank data and get a pretty good reflection on or picture of the sales velocity of this item. And what I see is that, when it first came into Amazon, it didn't take too long for it to get its first sale. And then since then, you notice the sales rank is just starting to get faster and faster with time. So that's a good sign. That gives me confidence in knowing that this is a desirable product. I also see that price is consistent in the FBA realm. Okay, we're sitting around $42.99. And which is our target by our selling price, right? $42.95, $42.99. That's where we're targeting this at. I do see that merchant fulfill is lower. Okay. And by a good, chunk, by $3. So I don't know, 9% lower than FBA. But if I hover over the buy box, button on the side of the graph, you'll see that the buy box has mostly been following FBA at that higher price. Every once in a while, it'll dip down to merchant fulfill, but mostly staying strong at that $42.99 price. So I have the confidence in the selling price that it's consistent. I also have confidence that, the sales are coming in at a faster rate. And I can just see this here, under 100,000 rank in health and beauty, sitting more around, I'd say like the 80,000 range in the last few weeks. So, you can see the pattern of it continually starting to sell a little bit better over time. Now, offer count movement is also a huge thing. It's usually how I would look at a variation listing to judge the sales velocity, because sales rank doesn't mean as much on a variation listing, because it's following all the colors and all the sizes that are in that listing for that variation. But I do see here that there's some offer count movement, which is a good sign, right? That alongside with the sales rank movement, I'd feel confident about buying, 5 of these, right? I'm not going to, I'm probably not going to get away with ordering, 10 or 20 in a single given order, but this is a product that I would definitely purchase, send in, a test buy of 5 units, and then we'll see what happens. We do have, like I said, we have a VA who's going through our order history and looking at the stuff that we're selling and pulling out items and saying, hey, this item, sold this many units around this amount of time. Here's something you might want to take a second look at. Test buy an item like this, send it in. Who knows? I might be able to sell 5 in a week, right? Which will then give me even more confidence to go a little bit deeper. Or maybe I find out that it took me a month to sell 5, right? And then that helps me make, a more educated decision on what I want to do next when I do another reorder for this. If it's an item that I'm like, hey, this is something that we want to purchase again and again. So
Yeah,
if I need, yeah,
I was going to say is like, it could also be the case where, it goes up to 35 sellers and, they take it down to, net loss of $1, $2, $3.
right.
That can happen. But at the end of the day, like, and it's interesting. I just want to point this out too, is like, in my personal position, right, as the owner and the risk taker, right, putting my money into this business, and I've had to, in order to go to another level and to be able to focus on building business and just doing what I have to do, I've had to like unleash control of these types of decisions and hand them over to you. And,
Mm-hmm.
and it's interesting because the less I know about the details, the better off I am. Now, don't get me wrong. There are times, and over the years, I have had to go through and go, there are signs in this type of item right here that tell us not to buy it. It's now bit us in the rear end, and so let's try to avoid these things in the future. But there's also been times where I've done that, and you've turned around and been like, "Hey, 90% of the vinyls I buy make us money, and the other 10% don't."
Right.
And we've, for example, right? That's one example. Vinyls, I've kind of got frustrated at one time, but then Taylor like went and showed me because I'm like not even attached to it. And he's like, actually, we bought in a shitload of vinyls and made plenty of money on them. These are the ones that didn't quite work. And hey, there's only a few units, just unload them and move on. Like it'll be okay. Um, the point I'm making is like Taylor, this is people stress out and they worry too much about what can be. And you pointed that out earlier as you were talking, is like you could assume or imagine the worst case scenario, but if you do that too much, and I tend to do that, I tend to be the guy that's, because again, it's my
Overanalysis.
dollar or whatever, and I'm the one managing the repricer on this end, and so I see all of the stuff that doesn't work, and the only reason I see it is because it's been in my account long enough to where I actually have to go look at it. At the end of the day, though, the stuff that didn't work after 6 months or something hasn't recovered and made me money. It's like literally a drop in the bucket in the grand scheme of everything we purchase. And so
Mm-hmm.
I find it encouraging, like and I hope maybe some people hear this too. Now, granted, if there aren't sellers that avoid stuff like this, then there's going to be like, we do need sellers to avoid these listings, right? Right. We do,
Yep.
right? Because if 50 people see this lead and they all think, oh, I'm going to do what Taylor does, right? Then we're screwed on this listing, right? But this is
Mm-hmm.
the kind of the point, I think, too, is like there's so many different perspectives. We're sharing our perspective, and as I'm even articulating this out loud, I'm realizing that it's actually good that certain people see it different ways. But I just want to point out that sometimes, like what Taylor said, do a test buy.
Yep.
Maybe it doesn't work out. There's $10 of wiggle room on this listing right now. Maybe by the time it drops by another $5 or $6 and it's only making $3 or $4 profit, it's cranking out at 30,000 BSR. We don't know that yet.
Yeah.
Again, we wouldn't publish this because it doesn't quite meet some of our standards. We try to hold firm, even though when we see things like this and it's like, might be good. There are probably some sellers that want to see this stuff, but we've got to hold the line. So anyway, I just want to jump out and just actually really, I'll end with this. Like, thank you for being the guy that's doing the decision making so that I can just enjoy managing the repricer and watching stuff sell. And getting through the budget, because again, spending $5,000-6,000 a day isn't an easy task, and you have to be willing to assume some risk, right? And say, hey, this may kind of not work, but we have a mission, and we got to go forward. And so, whereas
Right.
it would take me an 8 hour day to say no to probably half of what you say yes to, and if I did that, we wouldn't be able to realize the results in the store. So
Right. No, being emotionally connected to your money is not a benefit, right? And that's
right.
where that kind of thing that comes to is it's not my money. I'll spend your money all day long, Grant. I have no problem
Oh,
doing that.
cool.
But
Yeah.
if it was my money, I would be trust me, if I was doing this the other way around, I would
It
probably
better
be
work.
I'd be like, oh shit, I'm about to drop like, $100 on this. Like, gosh, I hope this works. I hope this works. But I'll spend your money. No
Yeah.
problem. And
Well,
shout
we've
out
all had to get comfortable with that, right? You
shout
know?
out to Leah Molan because she said this best. It's like your wins will carry your losses. When you get the education and the experience, and you've been battle tested and hardened, you know you'll be looking at things and you'll pull the lever on some items and you'll win more times than you'll lose. And I think that's kind of the big goal here. Question from Matt Roberts Taylor: do you generally limit your quantities on the first buy to 5 or so? No. Honest answer to that, it would be like sometimes I go above. Sometimes if I see something, I'm like, hey, this is selling really, really fast. Like I'll go do 10. Most of the time, though, I would say 5 or less, actually. Like there's items I'll buy 2 or 3 of just to see, shoes I'm normally buying like 2 of, depending on the source, and that's because I'm limited there. But an item like this, if I'd buy 4 or 5, throw them in as a test, and then from there, if it is something that's like, hey, I like this and we sold it and it looks good, I'll order. And again, this is me just trying to get away from not getting blocked from a supplier. I'll order 5. Maybe I'll do 2 orders in one day of 5 each. Maybe I'll throw in those orders, into my Thursday buy list or my Friday buy list. That way Charles can pick some up the next day. We're not placing all the orders back to back. And we're actually trying out new things and seeing like, okay, well, how do we get around ordering deeper quantities of items, when the sale is going on, and not missing out on that opportunity because we're spreading it out over time. But yeah, I guess to answer your question, around 5. That's usually my
I
general.
I would add that everything is a test buy until you've already purchased it and sold it before.
Yep.
So, and here's the other thing I would point out is for your test buy, right? If you're trying to spend, let's say, $500 a day on inventory, a test buy might be 2, right? For you, right? And when we try to get to, if we try to approach, let's say, 300,000, like I'm, like, man, not working towards the goal of 200K. We're buying the inventory, to the same inventory, but I think it's going to be a minute, and we're going to have to get out of, probably 4 or 5 weeks in as we start approaching our $200,000 a month goal again. But for us, as if we were to try to scale beyond, let's say, to $300,000 a month, which we're kind of tinkering with that, like what would that look like? What kind of people would we need to have in place? Would we, probably have to hire a virtual assistant to help with placing orders, stuff like that. What I would say is at that point, our test buys might be 10 units. Like that might be sort of around the minimum. Of
Right.
course, there's some suppliers that are only going to allow you to order 5, or just to protect the account that you can only order 5. So I think it's relative. I think your test buy quantity is relative to your budget. And if you're net relatively new seller, and I'm not saying, Matt, you are, it's a great question actually, but for those new sellers that are watching, start off with buying 2, go very wide and shallow starting out. Don't try to go deep until you can afford the loss.
Yeah. And next follow-up question from Matt too, which I thought was a good question, is do you figure a certain percentage on the list will buy any given item? So 20% of the list. And I think what you're meaning is how many other sellers on a lead list will purchase items. And I don't have a perfect number of that, and I'd be interested to figure out a way to track that data. I'd have to probably get everyone committed to buying on or using Cheddar Soft and actually hit the buy button so we can see like, okay, how many people buy an item on, but I would just say from experience and just kind of estimating, I usually, if say we're sending out to a list of 55 people, on most of the stuff, you might see 20 to 30, on the good stuff, right? The stuff that has like consistent pricing and is selling, at a decent rate. The slower selling stuff, the 10 to 20 sales per month type items, you see much fewer. A lot of people ignore those because they just assume that they're not going to be able to get, have success by doing it. Um, Maybe they've purchased too much on a single given SKU that was slower selling and they got burnt by it. So I usually see less people come on those. And I'm kind of hesitant to even tell people this, Grant, to be honest with you, because like we were saying, I benefit from those, right? If we're looking at an item that sells 10 to 20 times per month, but the price is consistent and the profit looks good, I'll jump in on it with 5 units. And if it takes me a month or two to sell those 5 units, great. It's not something I'm going to go buy 20 of and go super deep on, but I'll purchase it. And then in a month from now, if we're going through and we see like, hey, we sold 5 of these last month, I'll go order 10 and see how long it takes me to sell 10, and I'll drip it out there. But most people will, I think most people reject a lead just simply because they think that, that keep it graph doesn't have the crazy obvious sales rank spike, jumps in it. It's slower. And I will say, Grant, what we've found is some of those slower selling stuff, like the sales rank drops that are happening on Keepa don't align with what we're actually selling in our store.
Oh yeah.
We see stuff selling, and Chris Grant talks about this too, where it's, sales rank doesn't necessarily mean number of sales, and he's totally right by it. This is why test buying is super helpful, because if you're tracking, you find it. Anyway, just for the sake of time, because I did want to keep this to an hour, and we're pretty much there anyway. Let me crush through this real quick. The next thing I would normally do before I buy, this is a newer source for us, cultbeauty.com. I search it on Google. I put a space in between the .com and the name, and then I just add in reviews. Normally, we'll pull up, your site Jabber, your Trustpilot, things like that. Mixed reviews on this. So on Cult Beauty from sitejabber.com, it gets a pretty low rating. There's a lot of people who are saying that they didn't get their refund or order didn't show up incorrectly. Okay. These things are nice. They're helpful, but I would never make decisions solely off of a review site, because most people who are coming to a review site are probably pissed off. Usually, if you're super happy and everything went well and you got your item, your first thought isn't, well, let me go to sitejabber.com and write my long review about how great my experience was. You only do it when you're upset. So I see kind of a low review. I look at Trustpilot. I see the exact opposite. So now we have contradicting information. We have a lot of, high star reviews. And I see that these are verified, and if you hover over on Trustpilot, you'll understand what does it take to become a verified review. It just means that they were sent, a follow-up email or something asking them to leave a review, and they did. And so that's why it's verified. You see here that, glowing reviews. You see that Cult Beauty is responding to them. It looks to be like an automatic response, but they are. So that's a good sign. And then one of the areas I like, and this is kind of sneaky good, is Reddit. I love coming to Reddit, and I'll kind of just take a look to see what other people have said. So, this person poses the question, is Cult Beauty good? There's lots of responses that come from it. And this is actually a different Reddit stream that I was looking at previously. But when I'm looking at Reddit, I'll look at the people who are commenting, and I'm having a hard time. It's not there. It is. You just got to hover over. I'll usually hover over their account, and you can see the karma points that they get. So post karma is kind of like likes. Karma is like likes. So if you make a post and somebody likes it, that boosts up your karma. If you make a comment on a post, it also boosts up your karma. What I'm looking for here when I'm checking Reddit is I'm looking for the accounts that have very low karma scores with them, because odds are they're probably a bot or they're brand new. We're looking for high post and comment karma, because that just shows that they are more likely a real person. So I'll come through here and read through those when I'm validating. I've actually been purchasing from Cult Beauty. I just got my first orders from them. They were delivered. They had tracking. Everything went through the process, went through really smooth. So something like this, I would probably end up purchasing, like I said, 4 or 5 units, test it out, and then see what happens. If this was on a lead list, the nice thing about test buying is you'll see the spike happen, right? You'll see the drop. You'll see what happens when competition comes in. And like Grant was saying, if competition comes in and lowers the price and the sales rank starts to go down to like 30,000, that's good data that helps you make, a better replenishment decision. So let's move on to the next item, and then we'll open up.
While Taylor's opening that up, Matt, we do vet the source sites. Like, we're
Mhm.
extremely diligent with this, but that does not mean that we don't make an error. And to be honest, I would bet that we probably restrict websites that are legitimate. And we probably have more of those than we actually would publish a site that is, illegitimate or should not. There are rare occasions where Taylor will review a lead and go back to the team and go, WTH, like, this cannot happen. If you would have just ran a quick, if you did run a quick search and you missed this because there's some information, some things that are there. So here's what I'll tell you though, is like every OH header list subscriber is responsible for their own results and their own business and whether they're buying from good sources or not. Even if we deliver a lead for a website, you can't hold us responsible if you choose to buy from it. You still need to do a little due diligence. That's why we teach it. And it's just good business practice. Like, you got to make sure that the source and you feel comfortable with the source. Because, to be honest, and here's the thing, our risk tolerance is different than yours, and another seller's is different than yours, and so on. And so there might be a site like Cult Beauty that we're willing to take the risk on and go, you know what, let's test this out. Let's see if we get some good orders to go through and inventory to receive good inventory from them, and don't have any major issues or whatever. Whereas another seller might say, no, thanks. I'm just,
Right.
there's the whatever that site jabber, just turned me off. And to be honest with you, I'm that guy that's like, suspicious, moving on, just going to go find something else. But I'm not buying on the front end of the business. I'm buying when I do on the back end. Right. So it's like usually stuff that we're bought and sold. And so I get to be a little picky because I'm not in a time crunch. I'm just enjoying the treasure hunt.
Right. Yeah. So yes, we definitely do source our new sources that we've never seen before. We try to the best of our ability, and we order from them. I mean, like I said, I placed orders from this site. Right. From what I saw from, that it seemed to be a legitimate business, and that's what I care about most of anything. We've seen sites where you go and you search their address and you go to an empty field or some crack house in Detroit. Sorry for everyone who's watching from Detroit. But we see stuff like that and we go, nope, this is now on our block list, right? So if somebody shares a lead from this source again in our internal system, it highlights it. So that way our team it's obvious that they're like, hey, don't share this. This is a blacklisted website. And we have a list. I mean, and a lot of stuff that we've never shared before ever because we caught it before it ever landed on one of our lists. But if you ever see something on our Cheddar list that you're like, hey, I don't think this is a good source, report the error inside of CheddarSoft and we will investigate it and, let us know like, hey, this is what I saw. And if it's something that we're like, yep, we agree with you, we'll blacklist it. We'll never be shared again. And so, just a quick little note, the lead list that I'm sourcing from right now that we're checking out, they have been sharing an obvious fake website almost every day now for the last 2 weeks. And I just go, how on earth has no one I know that I have customers who will let us know like, hey, we don't like this website. How is this getting through? That's just a complete side note, but
yeah.
I'm like, nope, delete those ones. I already know. Anyway. So looking at this shoe, $29.99. We are looking at the size 10. It is recommended that we buy 4 to get free shipping. And I have a $15% off coupon code available, which will lower my buy cost to $25.49. So let's just go ahead and dive into it. $25.49 as my buy cost. I'm looking at the size 10 and toddler. Okay. Now, first things first, I look at this image and, it looks a little different, not completely different, but, you can see like the black is just, there's something that's off about this. It looks like the quality or the capture rate. It's not what is coming from, at least this source website, right? This looks like somebody created. I also noticed things like this, like the white background that they have is not perfectly white, which is something that Amazon really wants to have in their listings. So I would say that this is taken somewhere else. So do an investigation on this I'm looking for, I got the Nike swoosh in the back. I look at this strap here with this kind of circle in it. I don't know how to explain it, but I see the strap here matches up with what I'm seeing in the image. The overall design matches up. Look at the sole. Okay, count the number of lines on the shoe if you want to. 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Look to be very similar or exactly the same, really. Look at the heel. Okay. I notice here it looks like there might be a pattern on this. So if I zoom in from the source, I can see that this isn't a pattern, it's just normal netting, which on Amazon looks to also be normal netting as well. Can't zoom in on this as close as I can from the source. But title matches. So the Nike Boys Free Run 2. Exit out of this. Nike Free Run 2 into Boys Toddler. Okay. If Amazon's not providing it to me, but normally if there's like a model number, it'll be like the Nike style number, and usually a color code as well. So if the source and Amazon both provide that, which I'll just tell you now, they don't on these listings, I would check those out. Profit breakdown, all that looks nice and good. Okay, so $52.91 is what I'm hoping to sell this for. This is a variation listing. Okay, so we have 2 different colors and multiple different sizes. So when I'm looking at this item, the sales rank movement doesn't mean nearly as much to me. I would honestly say like it plays like a very small factor in my buying decision. I look primarily here at the offer count movement. I do see that offer count movement is going up and down, which signifies that sellers are coming in on the listing, but also sellers are selling out and falling off the listing, which just points towards sales. I see the price is super consistent. Okay, we want to sell this for around 53. In the last 3 months, it's been holding that price. It was actually selling at $65 before that. If I go to the year-long history, and I just usually just come try to find a low spot and just see, okay, what is it selling for in this low spot? I see $45.99. So $45, $46 in the last year is the historical low. So sometimes I might come up here and I'll check that. What if I sold this for $46? Well, I'm still making $7.82. I'm not losing money, even with my, love my prep center. Love you guys. Ridiculous $4 a shoe.
No, they reduced it to 3, which I find
good.
relatively fair. There's prep centers that are charging less. I just want to be careful. I don't want to knock them because the one time that I did kind of gripe about it, then I go and check and the price was reduced. So I hope to God they weren't like Grant's being a jerk on the internet. So I actually do love our prep center because they do a really good job.
They do a really good job.
Super freaking well. Like if anything, like they're calling us to better communication. Usually it's like, dang, we're trying so hard to keep up. But yeah, so they're amazing. If you guys know what prep center we use, like just want to know that they're awesome. So it is $3. They reduced it. Either that or I was misinformed, which is also a shame.
Yes. So. Well, good to know. But even with our prep fees, I'd still be profitable on this. So risk is pretty low as far as looking at the historical records. I do see the offers are a little high right now, but this is a Nike shoe. A lot of people, a lot of newer sellers are not going to be approved to sell a Nike. So there's a barrier of entry there. There's also a barrier of entry where this is a $25 item. A lot of sellers are afraid to spend money on a single SKU. So even though it's not $50-$60, it's still not something that somebody's going to go and say, hey, I'm going to buy 10 of these and drop $250 on a single SKU. So when I'm looking at variations, I look at rating and reviews. That usually helps, point me in the right direction. I see the reviews and the ratings on this are a little all over the place. I'll come over here into data inside of Keepa and I'll check out offers and I'll look at stock movement. Now, stock movement is not the most reliable data. There's many reasons for that. A lot of times it's because Amazon is hiding or is not showing you the actual correct data. But when I come here, I just kind of look to see, like, is there some stock movement that's happening? I have this first, seller up here. I see that stock movement has dropped for them. Okay, I see a little bit of movement here, a little bit of movement here. And this is just on the current offers that are sitting on the listing now. A little bit of movement. If I include the historical offers, because there are people who sold and sold out, like this guy right here, started with 3 and sold out. came in on July 28th and sold 3 units by August 28th. So this one seller sold 3 units. You know, I don't count this little drop right here because I think that's just Amazon transferring or putting it in reserve for a little bit of time. And I see that the seller even only has 1 review. So a very new seller was able to knock out 3 sales in a month. What am I going to be able to do with a 10-year-old account that has, you know, the feedback that we have? I'm going to have more success. I'm going to get that buy box more than they will, and I know that. So, you know, I come through here and look at data offers. Keep us saying that this sold 21 in the last 30 days. I don't think that's totally true. I think that it's counting, you know, for this seller, I would say that they start at 9. They're currently at 5. They really sold 4. I wouldn't say they sold 8. I think that keep us counting this drop of 4 right here as sales, and that's just not true. It's most likely a transfer, or most likely the items are put in reserve from Amazon, which is going to throw off the stock.
At the end of the day, the stock history is relatively useless. I would argue, and it really all it is just it can point to velocity or lack thereof. It doesn't necessarily, you can't sit there and count it. There are items where we look at it and it's like, this shows 0 stock movement in the last 30 days. But when we look at Keepa, we're like, no, this is selling. I would say BSR and offer count is probably your absolute best, most reliable data. But even then, you can't count anything. You can't sit there and count little spikes in the graphs and stuff and be like, I know for sure this is what this is doing. At the end of the day, this is why you have to test buy to determine for yourself.
Right. The next thing I'll do usually with variations, I'll come over to variations and I'll take a peek to see where this one lines up. I can see with the little trophy that this is the top selling variation, the size 10 in the black and white, which is the listing that we're looking at right now. It's gotten 2 ratings in the last, where am I missing?
I think it's all time.
All time, yeah. So it gives me a little bit more confidence too, but this right here is the main thing I look for. Okay.
Taylor, what I like to do with the variations, can you go back to that? Because I have spent quite a bit of time in variations, more than probably lately, or than before, because of the Amazon flips and stuff. But I'd like to sort by ratings to kind of determine how well, based on ratings, how well the variation I'm looking at might sell compared to others. And so that, you know, there's not a lot of ratings on this item. But interestingly, though, the one that we're talking about does have the most recorded. There's so few that I wouldn't really, you know, there could be one with 0 ratings right now that sells far better. So you'd have to look at all of the other details. But to answer that question from Jerry about the parent-child listing and determining, looking at the other data points, yes. So like, yeah, ratings, history, and stuff like that can be helpful when there's enough meat inside of Keepa.
Well, and also when you're sourcing, like, just know this: if you're subscribed to an OH Cheddar lead list, we shared, you know, in our opinions, the best 2 variations on the list. We do not share every single variation that's profitable. And the reason why we do this is frankly to let you guys have some fun. You know, so when you're checking out shoes or clothing or items with variations, you should be looking at the different sizes and the different colors, because there's lots of great listings on there that will make money, and you're not going to have nearly as much competition on them because most people aren't willing to take that extra 10 minutes to dissect a variation listing and see what other versions they want to purchase. It's also a really great way to spread out your purchasing, so you're not buying 5 pairs of 10, you know, size 10 shoes, which looks kind of suspicious, but maybe you're buying 2 of those and 2 of the size 8 and maybe 2 of the size 6.5 in red, right?
And you're just spreading out your risk too. You know, like if everybody goes and buys the size 10 because it's got the most ratings, and this is one thing I would tell you guys too, is like, I like to look for the items that don't have a lot of ratings, and you know, because a lot of times, like, you know, if you sort it by even like the current selling price and stuff, you'll find stuff that actually sells. If you're looking at a pair of shoes, it's like, well, the top 10 pairs of shoes sell for $100, but this size 14 that like doesn't sell very often and also doesn't usually have very much stock on it, you can see sells for 140. And it's like, well, if I can buy the size 14 for the same price as I can buy the size 12 that's, you know, selling for $40 less, I'm going to buy the size 14. So I like to buy some of those weird anomaly ones that
Mhm.
would never make it to the list. But again, it's just helped me diversify and add more offers to the listing, more opportunity to pick up a sale. Somebody needs size 14s. I mean, and I've bought in like, dude, some like, I
We
want to
bought
say
some
like,
big boy shoes.
I've bought in some big freaking shoes, dude. Cause I'm like, dude,
Yep.
they're like twice as much and they do sell and no one wants to buy them because they don't sell very often. It's like, but it will sell eventually.
Yep. There are people who have size 15, size 16 foot.
Yeah.
Yep. No,
Yeah.
I see. I can't
They
remember the
want
biggest
Nikes
one.
too.
I should have taken a picture, but there was a Marshalls in Washington that they had like, they always seemed to have really big basketball shoes. I mean, it was like, I want to say it was like a size 18 or something. It was ridiculous. Like it's a
I think
giant
you took a
shoe.
picture of it against your arm and it was like as long as your like forearm or something like that.
It was
huge.
it was ridiculous. I would hate to run into that guy.
Yeah.
So what would I do with an item like this? Well, when I'm buying it from Foot Locker, Foot Locker is obviously a good source, but also Foot Locker is a source that I don't want to get blocked from. So I'm not going to go buy 4 or 5 of these like I would like to, right? Usually with shoes, my rule of thumb is I buy 2 of them, right? This helps protect me a little bit because I'm not ordering a ton in a certain size. I'll do 2 of the size 10 and size 9 and 2 of the size 8, but for any particular size, I usually try to stick around 2 unless it's a source that I've tested and I've bought 3 from and it worked. And then maybe I tried 4 and it worked. There's a shoe company based out of website based out of Texas, I believe, that I've had success ordering, 5 quantity of every size, and they send it no problem. Whereas from the same brand, try not to give anything away, from the same brand, I'm normally limited to 2 from anywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
And so what would I do? If I really, really like this, I'd buy 2 today, maybe set up another order for 2 later in the day, set up another 2 for tomorrow, and just rinse and repeat until I've gotten enough.
One thing I'll point out too is like, I think a lot of people probably go way too deep on things because they don't have enough leads. Like they don't have enough options.
Right.
And this is why we've been preaching for years, like more leads, more options, better decisions, better inventory, less risk, blah, 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 blah. Like, and so I think like we don't necessarily have to buy 5 of a pair or 10 of a pair because it's not the only pair of shoes we're looking at. While one person's like, yay, hooray, like my virtual assistant or I've personally found this item, it's like we've already, delivered on 5 or 6 other items that we get to just diversify across the board. We can buy a little bit of all these different sizes and stuff. And so just having a lot of leads, honestly, just it puts us in a position where we don't have to go deep and take the risk of losing accounts or even just take the risk of something taking and having too much of it. Liquidating is usually pretty painless, right, for us because we're like, there's 3 of them. Screw it. Let it go. We're not ever going like, oh man, this sucks. I got, 25 of this pair of shoes and it's never going to make me a profit. I got to take a $10 loss on every single pair. Like that like never happens to us because of the position we're in with OA Cheddar.
Yep.
Go ahead, Taylor. I got a couple questions I wanted to pop up real quick too.
Well, I would just piggyback on that and say, yes, like us having, 100 leads to go through every single day makes buying decisions really easy. I don't feel like I have to go deep on everything that I find just to be able to spend my budget. I usually go actually pretty like, I'm not sharing my screen, so this would be good. Just to give you guys an idea.
There's good stuff you're not buying every day because you say 100 leads, but that's after you set some filters up. There's fast selling stuff that doesn't meet our filters that we're leaving on the table for everybody else because we don't need it.
So like just to give like this is just on our buy list, the remaining amount that's from today. These are the quantities that I purchased: 6, 3, 6, 10, 2, 3. Looking at Thursday's buy list, I've already got pre-filled out. It's 5, 6, 2, 3, 3, 2, 5, 2, 5. Those 2s are because I'm limited. I can only buy a max of 3, and it's a buy one get one half off sale. So I have to only buy 2. And orders today, 6 units, 10 units, 3, 2, 4, 4, 10, 10, 4, 3, 3, 7, 4, 4, 13. I mean, so you guys see, like, we're not going super deep on everything. We're really wide. Having all those leads allow us to be able to make those decisions, spread it out wide. And when there's a winner, we'll start to go deeper in it.
Mhm.
Right. And that brings up this comment from John here. John, you're crushing it, buddy. A lead I got from Gouda 2 last month has been selling for me 2 to 4 times every day, $12 to $14 net profit per each unit. Got a call with them, and they're allowing me to purchase higher quantities. Okay, so one, good on you, John, for not just buying a lead once, because I'm sure, you know, just from what the way this is kind of laid out, it sounds like, you know, you were limited on how many you could purchase. So going back in and finding that lead and saying, hey, I want to keep buying this, but also better on you for taking the initiative to call the supplier and work out a deal where you can get higher quantity units for that item that is selling so well. And then he adds in, best part, there's no coupon or promo code, so the buying price is always the same for me. So that is taking the leads list that you get every single day, not just saying, you know, all right, I'm going to buy this one time and be done with it, but looking and saying, okay, how do I maximize the opportunity that I'm finding here? And, you know, sure enough, this item is selling faster than I would have thought. John, I'm curious, if you were just looking at the Keepa graph on that item, did it look like it was selling 2 to 4 times per day for a single seller? Or let me know what you think if you're still with us.
Matt Roberts asked, do you set your reprice for men's at 10 to 15% ROI? No. Over the years, like for the most part, I would literally, like when we were doing retail arbitrage in the early days of doing online arbitrage and doing our own prep and pack and all of that, we would literally set most of our min prices at $1.50-ish profit. And if it was a pair of shoes, we would set it at $5 net, like $5 net profit. Since we have had over the last year or so, I think it's been, Taylor, roughly a year that we've, a little over that we've had it finally having Inventory Lab import our buy cost into the system. Everything's very blanket. And so the strategy that I have been using for the majority of our leads, and I could tell you about at least 700 plus different listings we have in our account are set at a 10% profit margin minimum, profit margin, not ROI. And then if I feel like I need to keep the volume moving and keep the store moving, I have been defaulting to a 5% margin minimum profit margin of 5%. But I've found that what I don't like about that, and I've recently changed this, and so public announcement here or whatever, PSA, public service announcement, whatever. Anyway, is yesterday or the day before, I was like, you know what, this 5%, because again, I'm trying to look at like how I need to be able to click a couple buttons and make a lot of changes, so I'm not sitting there and like wasting time. And so I was like, you know what? I don't think this 5% is working for items that are selling in that $20 to $30 range. Like that's the selling price of them, because it's like too low, and I'm not even going to cover my prep fees, and I'm also going into Q4. So what would be the point of me pushing inventory out a little more aggressively right now than anyway, and than I normally do. And so I went and changed it, and I moved all of the stuff from that 5% net profit minimum to a $2.50 net profit minimum. And so I noticed that made some of the items that were, and these are items that are just where the market has kind of gone down on them. And I tend to be the person that doesn't usually, over the years, I'm not the seller that goes and hammers down the price and tries to lose money. 2, 3, 4 months in, I will wait 6 months or longer sometimes to gain back a $4 or $5 profit, because generally speaking, the long-term storage fees and monthly fees are not going to be that much. And so I've had to go and actually double check that, because I hadn't checked in a while, and I was like, what am I paying for these fees, and what are the long-term storage fees? And I'm like, it's nickels and dimes. I'm not too stressed out about it. Pretty rarely is it going to be in the dollars for long-term storage fees. It has to have been there for quite some time and be like a big, a pair of shoes or something. And so anyway, so stuff that doesn't work at the 10% or isn't currently working at the 10% net profit min, I am currently moving to a $2.50 net profit min that covers my prep fees. I don't do that with shoes. I hold shoes, right? Because shoes are going to recover like 99% of the time. And so I'll wait to make at least $10 on shoes, right? I want to make a $10 net profit on shoes because there's returns and stuff like that. There's other expenses and they're big and light. So generally I'm going to be paying like, $1 to $2 to ship a pair of shoes in. Whereas, other items are much less to ship them into FBA. If it's a Funko Pop, because my prep center is actually pretty amazing and they put Funko Pops that aren't already in a box. Many of them do come already in a box if they come from like Hot Topic or Box Lunch. But if they're not already in a box, they will box them up for me and they charge $3 a Funko. I don't know for sure. I hope they're not charging me for Funkos that already come in boxes. That would not be cool. But the ones that they need to put in boxes, they're charging $3. I don't know. This is the thing. Like, I'm not even checking. Like, I'm like, oh man, I paid $50, or like $70 to pack up Funkos the last 2 weeks, bummer. I'm not even going in and checking like, where did those Funkos come from? Because if I did, I might be able to go back and say, hey, you overcharged me by $20. I'm not too stressed out about it. Trying not to sweat the details usually, because we just got too many things to do. So hopefully that's helpful. Just giving you some feedback on how we use the repricer. I just recorded a video. Or actually last week I recorded a video that's being edited currently. Thanks for taking that off. It's about the repricer and that's going to Cheddar Black users that kind of describe this is kind of what I'm doing. And then from there, hopefully those that need more feedback or more detail on what I'm doing with the repricer will ask questions and then I'll go record another piece of content. Again, allows me to dig in and really show you guys what I'm doing because I can blur out things that, to help protect the store identity and stuff like that.
Yeah. I want to follow up with John. If you guys didn't remember, John's the guy who found an item on Gouda 2 list and he's selling it 2 to 4 times per day. And he's able to buy larger quantities from the supplier because he took action and actually gave him a call. And there's no promo. So this is just a good solid replen. I asked him, was there signs in the Kiba graph when you were first looking at it that would show that you as an individual seller should be selling it 2 to 4 times per day? He says, no, it didn't. So I was super surprised. This is why you test buy. This is why we don't, you don't just look at Keepa and only try to buy the stuff that has super obvious, fast moving sales rank drops.
Speaking of sales velocity, what's your answer to that?
A lot of times an item that we share will already be in the top 1% of rank in the category, but no, I don't even process that. It's not a metric that I look at when I'm checking. I don't really care, right? I look at Keepa data. And based off that Kiba data and a lot of experience, I make buying decisions. I would say that's if you stick within the 1% rank in any given category, it's probably a safe metric to keep yourself protected while you're learning. But, for those who have the experience and don't mind taking a little bit of risk and also have the capital, exploring outside that 1% range, there's still plenty of good products out there.
Yeah. I think another thing to consider too is like, is it in the top 5% today, but in 2 months when it's more in season or whatever, will it be in the 1%?
Yeah. So you guys should be looking at all your Keepa graphs on a yearly level right now. And then all time and be looking at what Q4 looks like. Okay. Well, not just Q4. What does the year look like? Is there a season that this item sells? Right? Snow boots don't do well in the summer and spring months, obviously. But right now and moving forward till the end of the year, snow boots are going to be becoming more desirable. So items like that, like I go back to this, it was a video I made a long time ago for Cheddar Soft. And I was just going through, items that we'd sold previously. And I found a pair of sandals. And it wasn't the exact variation of sandal that we shared as a lead. It was a different color. But that certain color sold really well in the summer months and usually around like May, June. And I think this was like February at the time. I was able to buy these bad boys on sale for like $20 a piece. And we sold them for like $60 to $80 a piece. And I was kicking myself because I was like, man, I wish I would have bought more. But I bought them in February with the intention of selling them April, May, June, around that range. And so yes, be looking at, I always, I can do a little bit better about this, because I will say there's sometimes I know that I don't do this, so I'm not going to say I always do, because I want to, transparent and honest. But most of the time, I'll usually open up the year and look at what did this item do. All right, is there something that maybe I want to know about, in the upcoming months that would change the way that I would approach this item. So,
Scott, what is the actual net net of an OA business can expect? Can't seem to get above 8 on $15,000 a month in sales. So I just pulled up Inventory Lab, and we've done 881,000 in sales, total sales. And so after Amazon fees, right, not including any other cashback, not including credit card points, not including overhead, right, like prep and stuff, we've made 84,000. So running around that 10% profit margin, not too far outside of maybe where you're at. Probably if I were to take expenses into an account, maybe we're seeing a 5% if we were to take the expenses out of that. But then there's also the, like I said, the cashback and the rewards points. That's all additional income that I'm not factoring into that equation, which is a few $1,000s a month. This is part of the reason why I personally, had to make a decision this year, is like, if we're going to keep doing this, like I got to scale things up. I got to do this at a higher level so that 5% that I get to keep is worth at least $10,000. That's really my goal. It's like, I want to make at least $10,000. Otherwise, why am I risking my money doing this? And so that's just the fact. That's just where I'm at. Now, granted, what I've also said, and I've said this many times, and it's true. And one thing I will remind you, this is so far this year. November, December, January are generally closer to like the 15% range. And so we haven't really gotten to see November and December yet. So that might bump up a little bit to like averaging the year 11 or 12, because there's always better returns during the peak selling season. I had another thought. I lost it. Can't remember what it was.
I would add into this, though, if you're looking at ways to, how do I bump up my net profit? One, maximize every reward. If you're not already doing this, which I'm sure you're doing this, but make sure you're checking cashback sites. Okay, make sure you're going to the best cashback site. Right? We fall into, we love Top Cashback. It's normally our go-to cashback site, but it's really easy to fall into that trap of going to the same place for your cashback. Right? Are you maximizing your credit card points, and leveraging that to the best of your ability? Are you going back through the old data that you've sold, and buying those items, right? I think going back through old lead data, and Leah was just saying how that's pretty much all she's doing right now, which I think is awesome, right? She's going back through her old data, and she's buying off of that. What's that going to do? You're going to be buying leads that have less competition, that is going to result in higher profits, right? Or is your repricer too aggressive because you're focusing on turning the dollar and selling the items to within a 30-day window? Are you rabbit trailing? It's awesome to buy from a lead list and have it all delivered to you, but there's simple rabbit trailing that you can do that opens you up to items that isn't on the list, and that's going to result in better profits. So I'd be honing in on that too, especially if I was a newer seller. I would fall in love with sourcing, right? I would be absorbing Keepa data. I'd be constantly looking around and being like, okay, what else can I look at? If they're selling this makeup, what are the other shades go for, and what do they look like, right? Am I going, and just kind of fall in love with that, because I think after when you build up that knowledge and that experience, you can make the right decisions more often than you're making the wrong ones. But also, you'd be surprised at how much gold there is in your old data, right? You'd be so much surprised. Just because something's not showing up on a lead list doesn't necessarily mean that it's no good anymore. So, which is why we built CheddarSoft, frankly, because we wanted a faster and easier way to do it. Going with our spreadsheet system before, it was hard, it was difficult. Right now, if I want to, within less than 30 seconds, I could pull up every Target lead that I've ever been delivered, and if they're having a sell on mascara, I could search up mascara and find all the mascaras from Target. And I guarantee there would be something there if there was a sale. Yeah.
One thing I've said before, and so I'll just kind of articulate this again, is we've been doing this for 10 years, so we can kind of get a feel for like what it would take to create a certain result. And I've looked at other people's stores and blah blah blah, so we get it, right? We understand how the business works. And I can honestly say that a seller can probably, and I used to say, if you owned all of OA Cheddar, right? If you had a subscription to all of OA Cheddar's lead lists, but we're on a mission to prove that you actually could do what I'm saying with half of OA Cheddar's lead list, right? But you could sell $1.2 million, in my opinion, per year relatively easily with probably 6 OA Cheddar lead lists, maybe 7, but probably 5 or 6 would be enough. And spend, we're now doubled our budget with the 10 lists. We used to do this with 10 lists at half the budget. We used to spend what Taylor, like 50,000, 60,000 a month. We're trying to spend 120,000 a month. And that's just off of OA Cheddar. So I think that you could spend $60,000 a month with 5 or 6 OA Cheddar lead lists. And again, using my own store as a model, you could earn a 10% profit margin, and you could even ship all of your own inventory. You don't have to pay a prep center. You could literally spend, 3 to 4 hours a day placing orders, right? Because the leads are delivered to you. So you don't have to spend time sourcing and finding new leads. And if you wanted to use virtual assistants to help you, pull out replens and go into your orders, you can do all those things. But generally, you can spend 3 to 4 hours sourcing leads, and then another 4 to 5 hours shipping it out. And if you have a wife or a spouse to help you with it, you could easily knock down $120,000 in profit on your Amazon store, and then get cash back and credit card points on top of that. Again, stop freaking complicating it. And I'm not saying that you are. I'm not saying anybody here and asking questions is, but I see it all the time is that people are like beating their head against the wall trying to build this. I'm like, it's not that hard. You're making it too hard on yourself, because honestly, people are full of shit. And you're listening to them. And people probably say I'm full of shit. They probably do all the time. But at the end of the day, I don't really see other sellers coming out and being like, no, this is like literally, here's the proof. I got it right here. I'm looking at, and I know that, I could show you, but that's what Cheddar Black is for, right? Get in Cheddar Black if you want me to show you stuff inside of my inventory lab account. I'm not going to do that here on YouTube. But so it can be done. It can totally be done. The most expensive thing in your business could be just your inventory, which you're literally getting a return on. Your cost of goods get back. You get your profit. You could make a healthy six-figure income working full-time, busting your ass, working full-time on your Amazon store. People do it all the time. 20-year-old kids are doing it all over Twitter, and some of them are probably full of crap. So be careful, and don't get distracted. Pick your path and roll with it. But I'm trying to lay it out there. It's actually pretty simple.
No, absolutely. Graham, our business is mostly ran off of 3 people's efforts. I do sourcing, Charles does the actual buying, and then you kind of come in and fill in for repricing and a little bit of sourcing and kind of floating around there. But we also operate OA Cheddar, which does take, a good amount of my time. I put an hour and a half into the business. Charles puts, around 4 hours a day into the business. I don't know, you're probably putting in, you have to answer that question.
Sometimes none, sometimes, probably now a little more. It's interesting because it's hard for me I do this a lot where I'm like, oh, I don't work that much. And my wife is like, no, you work. And I'm like, I think it's because I enjoy it. Maybe that's why I don't really know how much I work, because I'm just happy doing what I love to do. But it depends on the day. I'm doing some more merchant fulfilling. I just got done doing a couple FBA shipments, which was interesting, just kind of getting in the rhythm of that. But like doing some merchant fulfill, I usually have about 4, nothing crazy, like 4 to 6 things to pack up. Sometimes, like today, I don't think I have any unless something's changed in the last hour, which there may be a few. But so and then we're building OA Cheddar. But yeah, like yesterday I probably spent 3 hours just going through old orders, maybe 3 to 4 orders. I was going through Keepa, looking for some Amazon flips, and going through historical orders from 2 months ago. And just tinkering, and had music, blaring over here, listening to some Morgan Wallen and some Dave Matthews. Right, I was actually listening to Dave Matthews yesterday because because you went to that concert at the Gorge like for what, like your 8th year in a row. You get yourself a souvenir.
That was my 8th year in a row. Yes, I did. I had
Speaking
a
of
few souvenirs.
reselling, apparently you can go to this concert or concerts that Dave's at. Get these get these posters and make like way more money. You know, you want to go get some high returns. Go to Dave Matthews, partied up for a couple of days, have some fun, hang out with friends, and buy posters because apparently there's some really great resale opportunity there.
There actually really is, and guys, we're in the after show, just so you know.
Chilling.
We're chilling, answering questions. So I did get this. This is the reseller inside of me. The arbitrager kind of cringed because I wanted to drain my entire bank account on these, but I'm pretty sure my wife would divorce me after 2 months if I did that. No, not really. She would. I shouldn't even joke around about that. But they do have these posters, right? And there is a collector's field for Dave Matthews posters. They have a kind of a crazy like following. I relate them to the Grateful Dead, but for our generation. And so I got this poster, which is a very limited version. It's made by an artist called Chuck Sperry. The last time they came out with a Chuck Sperry poster was my second year, so 7 years ago. That they actually no, because there's 2 years they didn't tour, so there was actually 9 years ago they came out with a Chuck Sperry poster signed by the artist. This thing right now I bought it for $100. It's easily selling right now on eBay for about $500. And if you got the foil version, you'd probably selling it around $1,000 right now for that poster. So worried about creasing the corners on this. And man, I was in line. There's poster guys, right? It's all they do. They show up to the shows. They love the band. They watch the music, yes, but they just resell posters. And I was in a line. It took me like 10 minutes to get through the line to get this poster. And this guy was like, "You should go back and do it as many times as you can." He's like, I promise you, you'll make a ton of money. And like I said, I was debating it, but I promised my wife I was only going to spend so much money on the trip. I already went over it. I don't even think she knows how much I went over, but she will. And I was like, nope, I'm happy with just this one. This is going to hang up in my office. It'll be my crown jewel of my collection. And, I'll sell the other ones I have if I have to. But just goes to show you.
Jennifer says, "This is so helpful. I'm so glad I took the leap for my first Q4." Awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. We're glad we could help. We're glad you're here.
I'm going to do a little shameless plug because I always love when somebody talks about Cheddar
We've been shameless plugging. We've been shameless plugging for an hour plus. Been that long? Oh no, it's been almost 2 hours.
It is I'm gonna have to get going here soon. I gotta go pick up my daughter from school. First day of school. Where was this? John, you were giving me such a big shout out. So he says, "I'm pivoting at the moment as well. Instead of having my VA source new leads, I'm planning to get on more Cheddar lists and have her rabbit trail from there, doing everything through Cheddar Soft and follow up. It really helps because my little brother does my prep for me, and now we don't have to track orders through an Excel sheet because he's using Cheddar Soft." So, John, take a lesson from somebody who takes initiative. Cheddar Soft is a great program to not only manage your leads, but also manage your orders. It track everything that you purchase from there. You can easily record the orders that you do in a nice, clean interface that is easily searchable, and it saves you guys so much time. And yes, John, we are both from Washington. If you want, you can feel free to private message us if you want to know more about that. And yeah, other than that, Grant, I think it's time for us to wrap this up. Does that sound good to you? Awesome.
I think that's a good idea.
For everyone who joined us live, thank you so much. If you want to join us live, go to oacheddar.com, join the VIP list. You will get emailed the invites when we go live, so you can join us, get your questions answered if you're watching this on YouTube or on Facebook. Other than that, thank you everyone for joining us. You guys have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye, everyone.
See ya.